Hi, welcome to my talk this evening on the power of the Aquarian mind. And that will be followed by a group meditation. We're in the energy of the Aquarian new moon, which is tomorrow, February the 11th, at 19:05, that's British time, so tomorrow evening. So the keynote for Aquarius is water of life am I, poured forth for thirsty men. It's an air sign, so its influence is all pervasive. It's interpenetrating, it gets into everything. It's a mental sign, so a sign of the mind. Its orthodox ruler, Uranus, is a mental planet. It's also associated with Saturn, the creator of thought. So the esoteric ruler, Jupiter, which is very benevolent, expansive, heart-based energy, comes from Jupiter. It's associated with the second ray of love wisdom, and this is what pours forth for thirsty men. So waters of life am I. And the key is the combination of both the love energy from the heart and the wisdom from the higher mind. So it's a combination of those two that pours forth in the highest aspect of Aquarius. So in terms of the rays, the fifth ray of concrete knowledge and science is the only ray to pour through Aquarius. And this ray can lead to illumination of our lower concrete rational mind and is responsible for many of the amazing advancements we've made in science and technology. Things like the internet and artificial intelligence and social media, all of these are very Aquarian, interpenetrating communication networks, working on the communication and the synergy. The highest expression of Aquarius, the mind becomes a pure channel for illumination. And this is illumination by divine will. The higher mind becomes a channel for the soul, and the lower mind becomes a channel for the higher mind. So we have this higher spiritual energy coming through. That's in its highest aspect. And in this aspect, there develops a capacity for this illumination to arise within us as intuition. And this a lower mind disciplined by meditation is able to detach from the usual thoughts and emotions that characterize many people's lives. They're very attached and polarized in their emotional nature. But through meditation, we can lift up, detach from the usual thoughts, and lift up to this higher mind and the wisdom of the higher self. And this illumination of the mind, combined with the compassion of the understanding Jupiter expansive heart, brings these two energies together, creates the world server, pouring forth knowledge, wisdom, and understanding for thirsty men. So Aquarius is associated with innovation, social progress. It's related to activism, humanitarianism, human rights, and social change. So the mind, at the level of communication of mind, mind is common to all lives in the solar system. And so it's on this plane that communication between all beings is possible. We will eventually, when we get further into the Aquarian energy, and as we evolve and develop, we will naturally develop telepathy as the communication of mind to mind. So the mind has the potential to be unifying. This brings through the second ray energy of love's wisdom. And this second ray energy of love wisdom is the pervading energy of our universe. So our mind, our consciousness is able to connect to a universal consciousness through our mind. So Aquarius governs the world of ideas and ideals. It encourages us to focus on our visions and dreams, our aspirations individually, but within the context of our role in our community. Spiritually, in alignment of our soul's path and our particular part to play or service in the collective evolution of human consciousness. In Aquarius, we find the world server within us all. So our fifth root race, the Aryan race, is the race of the development of the mind. And the ultimate aim of the fifth ray is for it to become an instrument for the second ray of love wisdom, to love wisely and wisdom applied lovingly to the whole. This can be unifying and transformative, lifting the collective consciousness of mankind and propelling us into a better way of living and loving. Or it can be used to control and manipulate through the mind and thought. So the Aquarian energy manifesting in its lowest form within a population that are emotionally polarized and lack the capacity to detach from the emotional desire nature and detach from the rational concrete mind and discriminate truth from falsehood, from false truth, are very vulnerable. And when we have technology, the development of lower mind and science and technology without the link to the compassionate heart, we get problems, real problems that you will recognize when I read through a list of some of these problems, because you'll recognize where we are in the world today. So when this lower mind technology develops without the compassionate heart connection, without the synergy of heart and mind, we get technology at the expense of our environment and our planet. We get technology that rapes our planet and uses resources and doesn't honor ecosystems and the natural systems of life. We get technology and advancement for the few and not for the many. We get technology aligned with self-serving materialistic intentions. We get mind control of populations through fear and the use of emotions to control the mind. We get misappropriation of knowledge and the use of science and statistics to manipulate and control. We get a loss of our freedom of speech. We get censorship. We get a loss of the democratic process of free and public debate, the freedom of movement and freedom to make personally empowered health choices. We get a breakdown of the democratic governance. So you might recognize some of those attributes going on in the world at the moment. So in its, and a comment I want to make there and we can discuss later is, when we look back in history, we recognize these things have happened before. Have we learned any of those lessons about mind control and population manipulation through the emotional polarization? In its higher expression, Aquarius is to develop personal freedom and liberation from restrictions, to break free from crystallized structures, including crystallized thoughts, ideas, and ideals. It's about finding our place in the collective without disappearing into a group that wants us to conform. So we're both unified and connected, but individually we have our part to play and we have a unique creative expression in the world. The true principles of cooperation and synergy toward the greater good of all come pouring through the highest expression of Aquarius. We learn that true dialogue is founded on the will to know and understand and consider another view, not the desire to be right. Our salvation lies in recognizing the power of our mind to discriminate truth, to lift up into connection with the higher mind and the higher self through the opening of illumination through the intuition. And we have the capacity, when we lift up into these higher states of awareness, these higher vibrations, to know and recognize truth, because in essence, we are at a soul level truth. And so we will recognize a resonance, a vibration of truth. We need to learn to detach our lower mind from our emotions and use the ingenuity of the lower mind in service to the energies emanating from the higher mind and the higher self. So our sun is moving into Aquarius now for the next 2,160 years. So its influence will gain momentum and potency. The true age of Aquarius doesn't officially start until the year 2117, but we are in its energy now, the transition from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. That transition period is a period of 500 years. So the key trigger, there's been some key trigger points just in the last couple of years where there's been a huge inpouring of Aquarian energies. And the energies, Aquarian energies, are the energies of major world change. So the winter solstice of 2019 had phenomenal Aquarian energy coming through. There were so many energies all happening at the same time. And this was followed by the Pluto-Saturn conjunction early last year that kicked off this pandemic. Then we had the winter solstice last year where we had that beautiful Jupiter-Saturn conjunction on 0 degrees of Aquarius. This was the potential inpouring of the Christ consciousness through this Jupiter ruling of Aquarius. Then we've had quite a powerful full moon just gone in Aquarius. And now we have this Aquarian new moon. And this Aquarian new moon tomorrow, and we are already in the energy of it now, is a very powerful energy. There are 7 planets in Aquarius on this new moon. So that is potent. We have Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, Mercury, the moon, sun, and an asteroid, Pallas, Athena, all having their influence, all in that Aquarian energy. I don't think we've seen this many planets in Aquarius since the major changes that were kicked off, I think it was in 1962. On February the 17th this year, Uranus in Taurus is square to Saturn in Aquarius. Now, Saturn represents the status quo, the prevailing powers, and Uranus is the awakener who shakes things up, the revolutionary change, radical change, overturns the current paradigm. So we've got a square here, we've got these opposing forces, and we will feel this. There's potential throughout this year for people to rise up and resist the suppression of their liberty and freedom of speech and the freedom to choose what goes into their body and make choices about their own health. There's a real catalyst. This pandemic is, I believe, a catalyst for accelerated evolution of mankind, and especially our minds and our capacities to use our minds to discuss, debate, and discriminate, to detach from the emotional fears polarized in that fear, and to learn to hold ourselves in the light of our own mind. When people do nothing and take the line of least resistance, this ensures that the status quo remains and has been the method of controlling and manipulating masses throughout history. I read in the 1960s, the KGB did some fascinating psychological experiments, and they found if you bombard human subjects with fear messages non-stop for 2 months or less, most of the subjects are completely brainwashed to believe the false message, to the point that no amount of clear information they are showing to the contrary can change their mind. So there's a tug of war going on between the old and the new, the tension between those holding on to the past and those willing to move towards a new future. Uranus rules the collective memory, the Akashic records, and works in other planes and dimensions. So there is potential for groundbreaking insights and downloads of mind-changing illumination. It is my understanding that there are beings in dimensions and planets and universes beyond ours who are watching the stage playing out of mankind on this planet, because what is happening here is not just affecting our planet, our solar system, our universe, but has effects going far beyond. We will not be allowed to take it too far. And this is comforting to know there is support, even if we are not aware of it on a physical plane and in a 3-dimensional awareness. We may come to see what is going on beneath the beneath the surface of things. We may come to see the bigger picture and realize we have a part to play in this radical time of change in history. Like I said, I think this virus is a catalyst. We have become polarized in our lower mind. It's encouraging us to think, to debate, to question, to come together, to listen to other opinions, and to form our own based on a connection to our soul, to our higher mind. Uranus, the exoteric, is the exoteric ruler of Aquarius, and this planet channels the seventh ray of ceremonial magic and order. And this is a huge energy for change. It's the energy that has the potential to spiritualize matter and shift us collectively toward radical change and the reordering of all aspects of our life. Saturn is in Aquarius. Saturn was the ruler of Aquarius until Uranus was discovered. And it's in Aquarius for the next 2.5 years. And this gives us the opportunity to look at what works and what doesn't in the status quo, and the potential to build systems based on the respect of human rights, promoting social equality and justice. So we're in a key time. We incarnated at this time for a reason, because we have a part to play. And that part is not to sit back and just let it all happen. You will find that you will be called to play your part in the drama that's unfolding for mankind at this time. This is a call to cultivate a detached, objective view of circumstances and to make conscious choices that are not dependent on our emotional desire nature and moment by moment emotional state. Aquarius is a transpersonal sign that means we move beyond our own individuality and we connect with people of like mind and develop group consciousness. This is a time of great change in our relation to each other, our values, and our use and distribution of resources on our planet. It is a worldwide call for change. We're asked to develop a deep awareness of the impact of our choices, our words, our thought, and our actions on the collective. By connecting with like minds and exchanging ideas, we have the potential to exponentially increase the creative solutions, our capacity to bring forth Aquarian innovations that lead to positive change. We can get ourselves out of this mess if we bring the best minds together in the best way for the highest good. Through the united action of men and women of goodwill and the understanding of every nation, we need to be in touch with each other, keep the connections to counteract the sense of weakness and futility that happens when we feel isolated. And there's a paradox that we're isolated in our homes, and yet we have the Aquarian Worldwide Web, or the internet, that can connect us and encourage the exchange of ideas. We need to be clear on the principles of right living, goodwill, and harmony, which are recognized by right-thinking people in the world today. Recognized, but maybe not always applied. And these are statements I got from Philip Lindsay's newsletter on this new moon. And he says a strong call to increase the general public's understanding of brotherhood, to foster internationalism, not nationalism, religious unity and cooperative independence, to establish a new world. Because remember, goodwill is love in action. It is that second ray of love, wisdom pouring through minds attuned to the highest. So this is group consciousness working at a higher level when we come together. Be mindful, though, be very mindful of what you let into your energy field, of the diet of your mind. Because your energy cannot help but be affected by the strong collective energy. And if that energy is fear and doubt, You will be affected if you tune into the channels and sources of that fear and doubt. So turn your tally off. Don't watch the news every day. Give yourself a healthy mind diet. Be very discriminative about what you allow into your mind. Like a poor physical diet, a poor mental diet is detrimental to mental health. And on a collective level, this is where we become vulnerable to mind control and manipulation. So it's imperative to be mindful of who you connect with mentally and on what level you're connecting. Are you arguing from a place of ego, who's right? Or are you lifting into the higher mind and you're arguing from subjective, higher ideals you're bringing through? You're spiritualizing matter, bringing through that seventh ray energy of illumination. So we're asked in Aquarius to find constructive and creative ways to channel our energies of anger and frustration, because there's going to be an interplay of planets through Aquarius all through this coming year. And this will bring in the populace an increasing desire for freedom, for a break from the tension, from that tug of war that's going on, from all the conflict, from the false information. People just, oh, can I just have a break from this tension, from this situation? So there's going to be a need to break free from the restrictions as more and more people wake up to the bigger picture of what's going on in the world and question the motives behind the management of this pandemic. We've seen misuse and abuse of science over the last year and the management of the pandemic. There's all sorts of questions around the misuse of technologies, artificial intelligence, and transhuman robots. And there's a lot going on that leaves one to question. Science has become a powerful tool in the hands of those who might wish to control humanity. And we need to think about this and be aware of this. Science should be detached, impartial and independent, with no links to politics, government, or individuals who can buy its power. Science has become the new religion in terms of how it can be used to control and subjugate people's human rights and freedoms. And when religion and politics come together, we have a powerful agent for manipulation and control of populations. And it's becoming the same with science. So just be aware, be educated, read, talk to people, form an opinion that's based on a sense of truth deep within yourself. We've witnessed what happens when science and technology are aligned with material forces and allowed to run rampant with, for example, no care or respect for our environment or for the effect. I think of the corporations who are stripping the rainforest, the lungs of our planet, for commercial gain, not thinking about the effect on the collective or the effect for future generations. You've only got to watch some of David Attenborough's documentaries on what we're doing to this planet to realize that we need to, as a collective, as individuals, we may not feel like we have much power, but when we come together, we have a powerful voice. So collectively, we are empowered. It's a crucial time for humanity. This year is a make or break year with regard to our future, and this comes through in traditional. I've read a lot of newsletters and descriptions of what's going on for this year, and from an astrological point of view, from both the Vedic, from the traditional, and they're all saying the same things. This will be a year of change. This year is crucial to this time on our planet, and people need to wake up and not just sit back and recognize the call within you to do what you can do. In groups, many have succumbed to depression, fear, futility, dread, angst, overwhelm, feeling trapped about the uncertainty in the future. And it's totally understandable. But we have to lift up out of that. We have to find the will and the courage to lift up into the higher energies of the heart and to detach from that emotional desire nature that will pull us into fear. And fear is contagious and all pervasive. And sometimes it might be as simple as you just have to not listen to the channels that promote the fear. Maybe you have to just step back from people who are caught up, completely overwhelmed in the fear. Or if you can, maybe you can nudge and get them to lift up into those higher heart energies, even if it's just to spark hope and eventually trust. So in groups, we find support, love, willpower, wisdom that inspires what Philip Lindsay, a beautiful phrase, the courage contagion. Okay, so we need a courage contagion now. And people of like minds, people who are the thinkers of the world, that's your responsibility. You wouldn't be attending this talk tonight if you weren't one of the thinkers. So let's develop a contagion of courage and come together in like minds. So the water of life poured forth for thirsty men is the knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding of life from a soul perspective. We come to trust in our connection to source, to what science calls the unified field, to spirit, to God, to our higher self, to the Christ consciousness within us, however we reverberate, whatever words work. We connect to, science talks about a still point where energy is described as a Taussian field, and all energy is this Taussian field with a channel up the middle radiating round each side in a circle. And within that Taussian field is a still point in every molecule of energy. And within us, we have a still point. And we find this still point within us when we go into meditation and we cultivate that ability to connect to the still point that is God, that is unity, that connects us to the unified field, to all consciousness, to God. And we allow the energy to flow. And we become a channel for energy in the waters of life, this energy of love, wisdom, through bringing the heart and the mind in alignment to that which is highest within us. Fear and doubt block the connection and they block the flow. They will stop you connecting with that still point within yourself to connect to the stillness within the cosmos. So we need to use the power of our Aquarian minds to lift up out of the grasp of fear and into the heart, to trust our connection, to trust in truth that comes through a mind attuned to the soul and the highest good. So to develop an Aquarian mind of the highest degree, meditate. Meditate and meditate some more. Meditate every day, acquiring the discipline and fostering the detachment from your lower mind, opening to the illumination of your higher mind in the Buddhic plane. When you do this, you create a harmonic resonance with your soul. And this harmonic resonance resonates out with the love, wisdom energy that pervades the universe. And you become a channel for this love, wisdom energy. And this will guide your actions in the world as a server for humanity. And this is both in your individual meditations and even more powerful when we come together in groups. Because a group meditation is a very Aquarian activity. It's an expression of the seventh ray energy of ceremonial magic. That's what group meditation is. It's ceremonial magic. It's to bring spiritual energies down into matter and evoke great changes in the world. Realize that your thoughts are creative. Okay, every thought, energy follows thought. And thoughts with strong emotional associations have the power to manifest as change in the world. So you can use this positively. When your mind, whatever your mind focuses on is what becomes your world. We're starting to really understand the power of thought and the power of our mind. And together, when we bring minds together, they're vastly powerful because they don't add. No, the connection is squared, not added. And for those of you who are mathematicians, you'll understand why the power of so many minds coming together, like the Maharishi effect of group meditation. In the coming Aquarian age, it's the power of group minds that will determine our future. So the quote I want to finish with before we go into meditation is the beautiful portion of the poem from Amanda Gorman in the inauguration speech. And that is, there is always light, if only we are brave enough to see it, if only we are brave enough to be it.